All right. Good evening, everyone. Hello, Mark Edward Lewis. How are you?
I'm good, Alec Peters.
What you are now officially a registered agent. What are you? You're a what's the name of what you are now?
Just the bald white guy with and it being an enrolled agent. I'm an
An enrolled
enrolled.
agent,
Yes.
which means what exactly?
That means I just have two letters after my name, but it's um, the IRS gives certain awards of smartness to certain kinds of people, and I get those of us who are enrolled agents. We have the highest, we'll just say, rating for tax preparers, and we're also the only IRS licensed tax preparers that can have unlimited ability to represent people to the IRS. So
Very cool. Very
yeah,
cool.
I mean CPAs can do it, but the IRS doesn't. They do that in a different way.
Well, tonight I am cosplaying a Bond villain here.
There we go.
This is Phoebe.
Phoebe.
Phoebe is one of our fosters who's working really hard to stay here. She actually went and got a home with a lady came in and saw her at the pet shop where we have all the cats. And she wanted a cat for her mom who had lost her cat. And her mom is in an assisted living. And so we were like, great. And they let him have cats and everything. And the problem was she kept running out of her room and running down the hallway, which entertained the nurses to no end, but they were a little concerned about it. So they decided they're going to go for a little older cat. So they returned her and she came back here and she is like, follows me everywhere. So, right, sweet. And she's just so, she's a tuxedo, as you can see.
Yeah, cutie.
And she's a sweetheart. Right, sweetie? So she'll either be on my lap or at my feet when I'm here. I shot another video tonight to edit. So for the Patreon donors. So all of you out there in Axanar land, in YouTube land, we have a Patreon campaign. If you're not a part of it already, you should be. And it's great because we've been putting a lot of behind the scenes content on the Patreon. And a matter of fact, this week I made Dave and Goodney, who of course have each given us tens and tens, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars to finish Axanar. I said, can you guys just give $5 a month just so you guys are part of the Patreon? Because rather, it was like, oh, I'm going to send this to Goodney, I'm going to send it to Dave, and I'll put it on the Patreon. I'm like, this way I can just put it on the Patreon and you can follow all this stuff there. So they both joined the Patreon campaign, which was wonderful. And I've just been putting a lot of content up there. Now I get stuff from our VFX guys and I throw it up there. But all right, let's see who's in the audience. We got Eric Madsen, Red Tillers. There's Scott Voigt. Hola, Scott? Haven't seen you in a while. Hope you're doing
Been a
well.
while, sir.
Michelle Evans, of course, my favorite. Of course, that means whenever Michelle shows up, I have to pull out her book, The X-15 Rocket Plane by Michelle Evans. You buy this on Amazon if you're interested in the X-planes and the X-15. I love it. This is a great book. So there you go, Michelle. There's your obligatory plug.
Actually, I have a plug. I'll be right back.
You have to lose the hair. Yeah, to be a Bond villain. You're right. Good one, Scott. Good one. There's Jim's Landscape LLC number 1.
Here's my plug. Jonathan Lane's new book.
The Art of Naked Training.
Yeah, he's figured out how to day trade in a way that works for him. And I recommend it. It's pretty good.
Oh, that's interesting. He didn't tell me about that.
We work together on the finance side and trading and options for everywhere. So, well, there's Sterling. Hello.
Sterling, how the hell are you? So nice of you to stop by. And Sterling always has the most amazing photos. Like, I swear to God, she's a supermodel. She every photo I see of her, well, I've seen 2. Her LinkedIn profile There you go. But keep up the good work, Sterling.
Yeah, she does take a good picture or two. And just so you guys don't, just so you don't know, like, why is he holding? Who's Jonathan Lane? He's the producer of Interlude.
That's right, and writes the Fan Film Factor blog all about Star Trek fan films, which is really, really awesome. We're gonna have to catch up. There's Sterling. We're gonna have to catch up with Sterling. I don't know the last time you talked to her, but
last time I talked to her, well, gosh, Sterling,
you have to keep up. One of you two has to tell me what you all are doing, Sterling. Hope everything's going well out there. And I'm assuming you weren't caught in the fires.
Oh yeah. She was evacuated. Most of our friends were, and her house didn't burn, but we have. She basically called a bunch of friends who were going to get evacuated. Like, should I leave? And it's like 5 a.m. And I'm on the phone with her, and I'm like, look, if you don't leave now, you're all going to sit on the 101 freeway at 7 a.m. Get in the car. Like, I know, I'm trying to get him in the car. So she took friends down to South Orange County, and I mean, she's kind of a superhero in LA. So.
Oh my gosh! Well, good. Oh wow! First, wow. Yeah, I saw Andre Baramus, who you know, one of the TNG writers, producers, whatever Andre was. I follow him on Facebook, and his things started popping up during the fires. He's like, "Oh, I don't know if we should leave yet. You know, they haven't given us an evacuation." And I'm like, I would have been gone 3 days ago. I would have moved out to a hotel in Riverside, and I would have gotten a storage unit and put all my valuable stuff in the storage unit and gotten all my pets out and everything. Look at this one. This one is just not. No, you're not climbing on the desk. You're not. Okay, we're going to put you down. So, sorry, we're basically running a cat rescue out of our house. So, So listen, all love to everyone in LA who lost. I know one of the rescue people I follow lost her house, and obviously a lot of people did. And it's just, it's shocking. It really is shocking.
Yeah, so it's. I was just there. I just back.
There's my delivery.
Oh, there's Crystal.
There's Crystal, because tonight we went out. So
that looks.
I'm getting Reese's Pieces.
Oh,
as I talk about not having sugar. We stopped by the candy and ice cream store. We went out for sushi tonight. Stopped by the candy and ice cream store, which we haven't been to in probably 6 months. I said, "Oh, let's get a piece of chocolate." They have, sugar-free chocolate. The line was out the door. I'm looking, going, I got to be on the air in 23 minutes. I said, she said, "Well, I have Reese's Pieces at home." I said, "That'll work for me." So I'm going to rob her of her Reese's Pieces.
Very kind.
Yes, Pacific Palisades has been. It's crazy, and I know people there, and
I mean, San Marino has been wiped from the map. Palisades,
what's that?
San Marino wiped from the map.
The Pee-wee, just come in.
Pee-wee.
That's Pee-wee at the door. All right, hold on.
Pee-wee is the cutest.
I swear to God, he can't push. A cat can half his weight can push his way in.
Well, he is about that big. He's the smallest dog you've ever all seen.
I don't know if you can see this. Pee-wee is Did you ever see About a Boy with Hugh Grant and
way back?
It was the first movie that Holt, the guy who plays Beast in the X-Men movies, what's his name? He's the new Lex Luthor.
Oh, right.
What's his name? I want to say Timothy Holt. That's not it. But he was literally he was the boy in the movie. It's like the movie's.
That's how old it is. Yeah.
and he's the boy. And there's this, and so the whole thing is he befriends Hugh Grant, who's this bachelor, and starts hanging out at his house. But there's this one funny scene, and I always think of it every time I open the door for Pee-wee. I open the door, and Pee-wee just struts in like he owns the place. And there's a scene in the movie where Nicholas Holt, he does that. Hugh Grant goes, the door rings, he opens the door, and the kid just walks in like he owns the place. That's Pee-wee here.
Sterling says we should name the cats from Star Trek characters, And I was like, when I lived next door to you all in the house where you are now, at the time, there was a whole bunch of kittens that were born, and Crystal named them all after various wild desserts.
Yes.
So there's definitely been themes throughout, but I do think we should have Star Trek characters for all the cats.
Well, right now we have a litter that's with a foster, and she named them after the planets. So there's Jupiter and Saturn and Mercury. So, yeah. And I don't know what the next one is going to be. And yes, and as Mark well knows, the mom from that dessert, we called it the dessert litter. Mm-hmm. The mom was Eclair, and we still have her.
Eclair is my favorite cat in the world because of her story. Her story is like when she stayed in my house as I kind of sort of monitored her kittens going all over the place. And by the way, if you watch the end of the Icarus maneuver, you'll see her babies. The one that's climbing out trying to escape, that's one of her babies. And she was completely feral. She would not come anywhere near anybody. No. And now she's like, where's my pets today?
Oh yeah. Now she sits next to me every morning when I go downstairs. She's in the little bed right next to me on the sofa, reaching out like, come on, pet me. It's such a great story, but, and it's taken her a while. I mean, was that 2 years, almost a year and a half ago? That was a year and a half ago.
June 23. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So well, good.
This is the Monday after the release of Section 31. And I'm just going to say, I don't know how crazy we want to get about this, but I want to say I give sci-fi, even bad sci-fi, I'm going to give it a shot. I'm going to say, all right, fan films included. I mean, how can I not, right? After all the pedigree of fan films that Alec and I have both been involved in, we got to give fan films, even if they're horrific, we're going to give them a shot. But I tell you what, Cheryl and I sat down, we had a choice. We were going to do Gladiator 2 or Section 31. And I'm like, if I don't watch Section 31, Alec's going to give me hell. And he goes, well, how have you watched it? So I'm like, let me watch this. We sat down, and 30 minutes in, I look at her, I go, are we done now? She goes, we're done.
Oh, and
we just went to Gladiator, and I told her, I go, this is why Paramount went broke. And then we watched Gladiator, and we're like, here's another good reason why Gladiator went broke. So your thoughts, sir?
Yeah. The same way. I think I made it through 30 minutes and I have of Section 31. And I was just like, enough. That's just crap. It's not just bad Star Trek. It's bad sci-fi.
Like bad filmmaking.
Oh God. It's just every, it's like they brought the amateur hours. It's like, now listen, if you've seen Section 1, but you know what we're talking about. And I have said, because people have been saying, oh, if Skydance comes in and says, hey, Alec, why don't you come and help us make Axanar? I'm like, look, I am not a TV producer. I have made, with very talented people around me, we have made a great fan film. And we're going to release 2 more great fan films. That's it. But like, you could not, if someone said, hey, here's $250,000 a year, we're going to make you produce Star Trek. No, not me. That's not what I do. Right? That's way above my pay grade. Then I saw Section 31. Oh yeah. Okay. Bring it on. Bring it on. If you can hire that crew, and I don't want to disparage other artists and filmmakers, right? Because they got this on film, but you also have to take responsibility for making shit. And I'm sorry, Alex Kurtzman, Section 31 was shit.
You make Michelle Yeoh look stupid.
Right? I mean, Michelle Yeoh, how about having a little more respect for such an esteemed actress?
She's got an Academy Award, folks.
I know. You're so damn lucky to have her, and that's what you put her in, and that it's just and right off the bat, the first 3 minutes, we see one of the aliens that's half black and half white. Did anyone other than know, oh yeah, remember that guy who's half black and half white in original Star Trek? Did anyone go back and actually watch the freaking episode? Because you would have learned that there were only 2 of them left and they were chasing each other around the galaxy. So where did this guy come from? And it's such a disrespect for, it's the cheap, the cheap thrills you're trying to give the fan service.
Yeah, but it's fan offense. It's fan disrespect. You're like, how can you miss something so obvious? An entire episode of TOS. I can understand if you had 7 seasons of TNG you had to pile through. Right. But there's only 70 odd episodes, guys, and that's a major episode. Besides the fact the makeup looked ridiculous.
I know, right?
Like, is that
still looks
weird?
Ridiculous.
What is that?
Still, I know. My black and white cookies look better. Hey, season 3 of Picard was good fan service.
Yes,
right? That was good fan service. This was bad fan service, and this is and it's not just that; it's disrespecting Star Trek. I don't want to see bad Star Trek where you take an idea like Section 31 and just shit all over it. I'm sorry, guys. The writing crew, the producing crew, you guys shit all over Section 31. And I'm finally at the point where I have for the past 10 years or whenever Discovery came out. When did 2016, 17? It was after our lawsuit. So it was probably late 2017. I have held my breath and held my opinions about I've been very nice, and I think I've been fair about Discovery, what I liked and mostly didn't like. And then the good, I've talked about the good things like Lower Decks and Prodigy and Star Trek Strange New Worlds. The first 2 seasons of Picard sucked. The 3rd season was great. I'm pretty honest about it.
I like that.
And now I'm going to be honest about this. I'm sorry. If you're in charge of Star Trek, you don't release shit like this. So I'm going to throw Alex Kurtzman under the bus. I'm going to throw everyone who produced Section 31 under the bus. The writers, you're getting thrown under the bus. I'm not going to blame the actors because the actors work with what they've got. And these are accomplished actors. It's not like the acting was bad. And it's not like they cheated on the visual effects.
No.
But all those things serve story. And so falls at the writers and producers' feet. And that's my little, excuse me, let me get off my soapbox. Okay. And
I will tell you that it I think even in the rest of post-production, they cut every corner, like the sound design in it. I was like, really, guys, this is the most rehashed, badly mixed. And the music was like, oh, there was music in there. How like, it was just kind of like, oh, the most boring, non-creative, everything. Color correction was weird. Like her skin looked funny the whole time. You're like, guys, wow. So I actually liked the first scene. The very first scene, I was like, oh, this might be something. I don't know what this is. Oh, that's horrible. Oh, that's a little weird. And then after that, it was like, okay, woo, guys, wow.
Stephen Ross, thank you for the compliment. Let me tell you, you want to put me and my team in charge of an anthology series for Star Trek, you will get the fans loving what we produce, just like they love Axanar. Because we're not going to produce crap like Section 31. We're not going to we would never let shit like that onto the screen. And listen, there's also, I've always been very upfront with the fact that what we do is not what Alex Kurtzman is doing.
Yeah,
we're producing a very high quality independent Star Trek that's placed that is specifically hearkening back to the original series, that is specifically looking much more like the original series than like TNG or certainly than Discovery or any of those. Right? We can afford to do that because our audience are hardcore fans. They're right. We're not trying to appeal to millions of people. I mean, you could not put Axanar on Paramount Plus. That fans aren't going to buy it. It's like, because we do look like a 50-year-old sci-fi series, right? Just photographed better and stuff. It's very different. We have the bridge we have because we're period specific, right? As opposed to what Discovery is doing or what Strange New Worlds is doing. I'm not comparing what we do to Discovery or Strange New Worlds in any way, shape, or form. We're doing something very different. but we're doing something within our capabilities, right? We're doing something that we know we can do well. And unfortunately, the people working at their level aren't ready for their level.
Well, I think it goes back to what you said. There's a respect. We see it with Star Wars. We saw it with JJ Star Wars, where there was just a disrespect to the original. We hate the word canon, it's overused, but there are just things that everybody who has been around for 30 or 40 years knows. And if you're going to break the rules, you better have a really good reason. Section 31 was a breaking of the rules when it first came out. It was like, well, that's not Gene Roddenberry. Wait a minute.
Right.
What?
Yeah.
But it became a thing. And I think the fundamental thing I hated about what happened was, to me, Section 31 is this horrible, dark, frightening possibility for the Federation. And, when we say, with Ramirez's speech, I fear the greater loss is of the ideals of the Federation. Well, yeah, but underneath it all, you got this whole part of the Federation Charter that says we can do whatever we want.
Yeah.
And they come in, and it's kind of bubblegum with a purple-haired girl that says, well, I'm actually here to honor the rules. And you're like, what? There's nothing scary about anything that's happening here. Let's just say it's romper room, and then it's okay. But it's Star Trek Section 31, and
they basically made Section 31 Starfleet intelligence.
Yes, that's what happened.
That's what they did. They said, Section 31. No one knew about Section 31 when they showed up in Deep Space Nine. No one had ever heard of them. They were always operating behind the scenes. They were always the guys in black, right? It was quiet. It was behind the scenes. Starfleet Intelligence was still doing its thing, and I'm sure they had Starfleet Intelligence was basically like the CIA. That's who they were, right? They were the military intelligence or the Federation intel. That's great. But Section 31 didn't play by Starfleet Intelligence rules. They didn't report to Starfleet. They didn't, which made them dangerous. Which made them dangerous they made them dangerous to everybody. Made them dangerous to the Federation. That was the point of Section 31. And these guys just threw all of that out the window and said, we're just going to make them like Starfleet and another branch of Starfleet Intelligence.
Yeah, I mean, you're talking about Section 31, whose counterpart are the Obsidian Order, the Tal Shiar, which we see in the form of Garrick. Like, if they've been like Garrick, ruthless and trying to, not just comic, but they're like, everything they do is flippantly horrific and not, whatever. I mean, I was hoping Michelle Yeoh, I knew I wasn't going to be because I saw it in the trailers. I'm pretty damn good at trailers. But I was hoping she's just absolutely horrific and no one can control her. She's really terrifying, not comedic and, I don't know what it was, but Starfleet Intelligence. That's what it was. They turned it into a weird Starfleet Intelligence show, which nobody cares about.
No. And I said someone was trying to make Star Trek meets the Dirty Dozen, and they failed miserably. Right? They just failed. There have been people. Sometimes they do those Star Trek, those mashups, like the Magnificent Ferengi. Deep Space Nine meets the Magnificent Seven in a comedic atmosphere, right? That's how that worked.
And they should have gotten comedy writers to do Section 31 then, and then it would have been great.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
You want to make it a comedy, you want to do that aspect of it, you can. It was just.
I remember whatever year Snakes on a Plane came out. And I remember watching the trailer. I was on a plane watching the trailer. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is going to be the funniest movie of all time. And then it gets in and it's like, snakes on a plane. I'm like, this is serious? No.
You're right.
Cocaine Bear. There's another one. Cocaine Bear. I'm like, oh, this is great. Wait, it's serious? Are you crazy? That's the funniest thing ever.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, if Mel, right. I listened. That was Spaceballs. Mel Brooks meets Star Wars, right? There you go. That's how you do it. a matter of fact, I read interestingly last week that Mel Brooks called George Lucas to get his blessing before they released Spaceballs. And George Lucas laughed and said, okay, but no merchandise. And Mel Brooks said, okay. And that was how they got George Lucas's blessing. It was, it's all good. Okay, well, let's get away from what we hate about Star Trek.
Yes.
Mark, tell us where we are in the process of Axanar, because since people keep asking you, let's tell everyone what you've been up to, because there's some good news coming.
Well, at the moment, even right now, there's an upload to our Google Drive where all of our happy files are of the first episode having what we call picture lock. Picture lock means that nothing else is going to move. We've got all of the shots timed. Now, we may not have the final shots, but they're not going to get any longer. They're not going to get any shorter. Everything's been shot. It's sitting in there. So we just punched in all of Orion's narration into episode 4. And I think if we end soon enough, I'll put it into episode 5. We just got an hour and a half ago, his narration recorded. So that's good. We'll have picture lock on 5 here. Oh, well, no, we still have a couple things to do visual effects wise in 5, but 4 is great.
We're done with the previs for 4, and are we halfway through the previs on 5?
Something like that. Yeah. And for those of you who were invited and attended the latest party in Atlanta where they screened where the current part of 4, we've got a bunch of the sound design, the rough sound design is in there for the spaceships, which always brings realism. And that's one that I don't have sound design for yet. But
that's because there's so many damn ships.
Well, there's a lot of work to be done on these big shots. Some people don't realize that, we're doing Star Wars level sound as we did in Prelude. And so that right there, that particular Ares class ship is going to get, I don't know, it's got 10 tracks of unique sounds.
Stardate 2242.3. Starfleet has established a new medical base, Nightingale Station, near to the front lines with the Klingons.
That's that's from the Daedalus, the new the new short film.
Yes, and I can hear them using our Axanar sounds for that ship. I'm going to have to actually build Daedalus ship sounds. We haven't gotten to the Daedalus ships part yet, so those are all going to be different because they're older and they're different looking, so they're going to have to sound a little bit different. Those sounds for that ship, that's actually borrowed from the part of the Geronimo Orchestra, the Geronimo Orchestra, and there's another one in there. Anyway, Frank Serafini and I, way back in 2014.
Yeah. I let me tell you, I just listened to that podcast. It's podcast number 3.
With Frank?
Yep. And Jesse.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah.
Wow. Where is he in the world?
You need to go back and listen to that podcast. It's great.
I do.
It's great to hear Frank.
I'll probably cry. God.
Yeah. It's good to hear Frank talk.
Yeah, but we spent no small amount of time under a freeway overpass under it, recording trucks and all kinds of things going up the Interstate 5 freeway. And then he had his own little personal library of weird sounds there were rejects from Tron, because you guys know he did the sound effects for Tron. He did the sound effects for TMP. And then there was another guy that we connected with who was sort of an assistant editor on TMP who knew Frank. And I said, do you have, because Frank didn't have the sound of warp, of the refit warp. Like nobody had that anywhere. And Frank's like, I don't think I do. But this other guy built it. So we've got the actual TMP warp. We've got the TMP torpedoes, which nobody uses those. And the Klingon torpedoes are a very unique kind of sound. So from TMP. So we've got all of that stuff because they were just like, man, here's how we did it. And for those of you who don't remember, it's probably in that video number 3 where he talks about some of the nonsense that he did for Tron. He's like, oh yeah, well, the Sark's command carrier. Yeah, well, I'm like, that's such a crazy noise. He goes, well, we went up and took the Goodyear blimp, and we suspended microphones from the blimp, and we flew around LA and recorded traffic, and then sped it up and did all this stuff. And that's that sound. That's LA traffic sped up from however high the blimp goes.
Oh,
and he's like, oh, the USS Dallas in Hunt for Red October, not the
Red October
Typhoon class, not the Red October, but the actual Dallas. He goes, when they turn the screws, he goes, oh yeah, we went down. I went to Disneyland, and they took me down into the chillers early in the morning before they turned all the air conditioners on, and we recorded that sound, and that's actually Disneyland air chillers. I'm like, man, you've been everywhere. He goes, dude, it's the greatest. So we got a bunch of that stuff. Yeah, that's right. But that's cool. We're in the process of finishing the previs and in 5. And then we're starting, well, actually, as far as I know, right now, we're finishing final shots on 4. And then music is going to start on 4 here. I don't know. Now that we have picture lock, they can start their work. Sound design's already in process. What else are we missing here? Oh, there's some tactical stuff. But in terms of, so there's kind of 2 arms of visual effects that are happening. One is the exterior shots, and that's, as you can imagine, massive. And then the other side is dealing with the shots where we have actors. Now, not all actors are on green screen. I think we've talked about that, but a lot of them are. So, and some of them have very complex makeup and very complex. I mean, if you think about what goes to a ridgehead Klingon, you're like, oh, those ridges, no big deal. But what's really hard is to take a green screen shot and this frizzed out white weird hair that's translucent and composite, get rid of the green that's kind of reflecting through all of it without wiping out the hair. That's a very, very difficult thing to do. And it's difficult because if you watch most fan films, it looks terrible. It's just like these weird ants walking up and down their head looking thing. So it's a very, very difficult. It is actually, it's not something where you can just go, oh, AI will do it for me. No, this is like an art form. It's like calling up Van Gogh and saying, can you do compositing? Oh yeah, sure. But it's like that level. So, and then of course, for those of you who know Dana, he's, God bless him. It's a good thing he's retired. He's working crazy, and we're trying to, buy off his wife and make her happy the whole time because we love her to death. And she's like, you guys are using Dana a lot. So, and so we're having a great time. It's just a lot. And we don't have a crew of 30 people in our post-production, farm going at it. It's, well, if we think about everybody that's working on it, are we at like 7 people right now? I think total.
1, 2, including or not including our narrator.
Not our narrator. I'm including Josh.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
Yeah, I think it's 7.
7
so
people.
So on a visual effects list that on the compositing arm is I think we're over 250 shots. And then on the exterior shot, we're over 180. That's a lot. That's a lot. And of course, we have 6K footage because we shot everything at 6K. So anyway, it's fun. It's great. I remember when we first did the first rough and we're cutting things in. We just kind of had some of our footage and we were cutting it in. And I remember having this terror feeling like, is this going to work? Not that the script didn't work, but when you go and you actually put it together on the timeline, you kind of go, is this going to be good? I see they look good, but it's the assembling of all the elements that has you go, yeah, that's a gripping story and a gripping movie. And it was a minute there while we were constantly going back and forth, and we had these weird assemblies and, still photos of actors that we hadn't shot, like this and me.
Or the sketches.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like these sketches. Yeah, there's sketches like, and these fixed poses. And it's my stupid voiceover, trying to be, whatever Klingon voice or whatever. And it's just nonsense from an actual production standpoint. But having now the footage in there, every time I watch it down, I'm like, this is going to be really good. There are multiple places. Alec knows. I'm like, the audience is going to scream there. When that happens, they're going to go, ah, because it's not fan service. It's just, oh my God, that's the greatest thing that's ever happened. And there's probably 3 of them where the whole audience is just going to scream. And I screamed when I found out what it was. And some of the things have happened since Icarus. So, you know, when I produced Icarus, it was like, what if we do this with this character? What if we do that with this character? And I have to go back to Alec because Icarus obviously was going to come out way before anything with Axanar. And I had to go, if I do this, is that going to mess you up? And he's like, no, that's great. Do that. And then it becomes sort of Axanar canon. Well, what about this? What if we do this with this character? Is that a thing? He goes, no, that's great. Do that. So it's been such a great, you know, kind of transformation from here's our script that we've had for a little while. And now we've got Locked Picture on episode 4, and it feels really great. We're kind of just waiting around. It's sort of like Christmas Day. Every few days, we get some of these shots that come in, and we're like, that looks great. Wow. Yeah. You know, you drop them in. So we're chugging along here. So I personally am for the first time breathing a sigh of relief because we have one of the episodes locked. And that means a lot of things can start now that I've been like, I can't set composers to work if we don't know where that cut and that emotional moment's going to happen. If it's happening anywhere in here, I don't want these guys going, you mean we have to redo it? No, I don't want that. So there you go.
Yeah. You know, I forgot, was it you or I was talking with someone, we were talking about just the emotional beats of which characters were really going to resonate with fans. Because, you know, in Prelude, really Prelude is Tony Todd. It's Ramirez is the main force for it's not Garth. It's really Ramirez is the main force for the Federation. And then you've got Karn. So it's really Tony Todd and Richard Hatch really kind of carried it. But Soval, Gary Graham, was kind of the foundation on which the entire thing was built.
It's like you said, but then it's Soval and Travis. So that's the first level up here, and then Soval and Travis.
Yeah, and Soval being that Gary Graham's reprising a role from Enterprise, which took everyone by surprise. Everyone's like, is that Gary? Oh shit, Gary Graham's playing Soval. So that, you know, that's one thing. So in these 2 episodes, the first thing is we have 20 characters, not 6. So that changes the dynamics. We have we have tertiary characters, we have secondary characters, and then you've got your main characters. So it's a much broader canvas that we're painting on for these 2 episodes. And Richard, we've kind of said, look, Richard, we've got Richard in this, but we don't have a lot of Richard. You know, and the whole idea was
when did we start saying that Richard was in it? Did I miss that memo?
And we've let it. And besides, it's a small group that watches these, so it's not everyone. But that being said, and then we've got Gary Graham again playing Soval, but it's not quite that Soval role isn't quite the heft of what he was representing in the first one. Totally. He's a little. His commentary is different now. It's not. His commentary in Prelude was really strategic. It was really laying the groundwork for the big picture of why there was a war and what was happening in the war. It was very big, broad. He was the one laying out the big picture, right? Not so much this time. Now he's really commenting on a lot of what's happening because we know where we are. Prelude is just that. It is the prelude to the next 2 episodes.
He's kind of bringing heart. He's bringing, ironically, I think, heart to episode 4 and 5.
Yeah, I think that's a good way of looking at it. Yeah, I do. So their roles are kind of different. And so now I think you've got 2 other characters who we're not going to reveal. But you've got 2 other characters, one on the Federation side and one on the Klingon side, who are doing a lot of the big heavy lifting.
Sonia Alexander comes back very powerfully
she's got a big role. And she's got a big role too, you know. So you still have Sonia, you still have Travis, you know, you still have the characters that you've seen before. Garth, of course, is still there. But now we have a much broader canvas, and we have new actors. So we kind of have those new holy shit actors. This time they're different. We're adding to the Richard Hatch and Gary Grahams of the world.
And I love that Icarus came out because it's sort of, and also Interlude sort of introduces a few of those actors into the mix kind of early. Like, wait a minute, don't we know him from somewhere? Yes.
Yeah. So I think it is looking great, and we're pretty excited, and again, we've talked also on some of my other live streams. We've talked about the whole thing with Skydance and what's happening there. And that's, we're keeping our fingers crossed that things are going to be better with the Skydance regime as opposed to the current CBS and Paramount regime. I did get some good news that one of the big lawyers at Paramount has left. Who was one of our nemesis, shall we say?
Oh, her.
So we're very excited about that. But they're bringing in a whole new regime, and I know for a fact they're looking big picture to have different engagement with Star Trek fans. I think Skydance has recognized that the engagement with Star Trek fans on many levels has been lacking over the last 10, 15 years. Yeah. So we're hoping we have a positive relationship with Skydance, and that they kind of give us the go with God and let us do our thing, because as I've always said, we're nothing but writing love letters to Star Trek. And, it's just a passion project that is nothing. There is absolutely no downside to CBS and Paramount with Axanar. Other than their hurt egos about the fact that we're more beloved than their TV shows. Evident by, if all you got to do is read the comments of Prelude to Axanar.
Strange New Worlds notwithstanding, yes.
Exactly. Scott says, where are we on the audio drama? Good question, and we've got a good answer. One, we got a lot of the last pieces, including a complete narration by J.G. Hertzler, which we're very excited about. A lot of work got done. It's all with the producer now. So we have a team working on that. And so I know there's no due date for that. We don't know when it'll come out, but they're working on it. And so kind of like with Axanar, where we have all the actors and 20 actors in the can, and it's post-production, the audio drama is, I would say it's 95% in the can, but all the things that aren't are, we need this random Klingon, we need this random Starfleet officer.
There's a ton of little things and Foley and all that stuff.
All the actors have recorded their lines. So there we are. Let's see what total runtime is somewhere around a half hour. It's, the guidelines say 15 minutes per episode, which no one pays attention to, right?
Clearly, with the latest releases we've seen.
Yeah, I mean, Star Trek Continues set it off right after never paid attention. They released 3 episodes that were all 50 minutes long, so they didn't pay attention. But we're, trying to honor that and sticking. And besides, what we're doing is built to be short, right? Kind of like Prelude. Let's see. I'm not sure. I'm Sterling. I'm not sure what.
Oh, she's talking about our nameless attorney at Paramount who's just left.
Oh, that it's a male actually.
I thought you said. I thought it was the lady that was there.
No, it's not Mallory Levitt. No, she's still loitering.
Okay. That's who you were talking about.
They haven't replaced her yet. We'll be hopeful. So we'll see. Let's see. Yeah. Dana has one in, by the way. And Dana's not producing the audio drama. We have someone else who's experienced with audio dramas that's working on that. So, and listen, I'm totally cool if that happens after after we release Axanar, because there's going to be so much positive press around Axanar. So when we release the audio drama afterwards, that'll just be a big win as well.
Yeah,
and really exciting. Excuse me.
The audio drama is full length. I mean, I was producing it for 5 seconds before we ran through the latest iteration of directors. And, I was like, I had to rewrite the script. It was so long and so encompassing, but it came out of the original film script. And so, we had to rewrite it. And I'm telling you, this thing it's epic. It's one of these days when AI can finally make an entire movie out of a script, we'll have to do it because it's so awesome after, things settle down, of course.
Yep. So, people have asked, most of you guys who are probably watching right now have already heard us say it, but, we're shooting for the summer. Our goal is to release at San Diego Comic-Con. Now, can we get both episodes done by then? I'm not sure. That's the hope. But we've kind of set the deadline for episode 4 first, and then episode 5 is going to be a little longer because, you've got the Battle of Axanar, in episode 5, and that's a lot of visual effects. So we'll see, but we're working real hard towards it this summer. I would love to do, episode 4 at San Diego Comic-Con, episode 5 at Star Trek Las Vegas, but who knows? We'll see. We're not going to make any commitments. After 10 years, the important thing is to do it right. And I'm pretty excited about it being done right.
Yeah, that's great.
And just so you know, what we did was, which we did a year and a half ago at least, was we put together, Mark put together an edit. Back when we had, 10 actors in the camp, maybe. We went and I said, Mark, we need to put the whole thing together and let's put slugs in there and use the storyboard images and use temp soundtrack and whatever. And let's just see how it flows. And he did. And it's been an invaluable tool because we've made changes. We've added things. We've changed lines. We've
changed script. With the script has been, it's nowhere near where it was. Because like I said, it's one thing to write a script. It's another thing to shoot it, but it's a whole nother thing when you drop it in actual real time. And then you're like, oh man, that doesn't work. Let's change this. We need more. Like the biggest problem we had, once we shot a few of the actors, we put it in with these silly slugs, but it became very apparent that, one of the things you have to have in a script in Act 2 is the protagonist has to not only be up in a tree in trouble with bears trying to get him, but the tree has to be on fire. So, and we had lots of bears, but no fire. So we had to it wasn't me, it was Alec. He had to go through and go, well, how are we going to add some more intensity to this? So, those are the kinds of things you kind of can't see until you get into the edit bay. And the tool of the assembly has just served us to no end in this process.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and I've talked about it on the last podcast, which is up and you can watch on YouTube, podcast 77. We talk about it, but we've had 2 insert shots, one of which was just something we were doing for Daedalus, and we dropped in Nadia Robertson as Admiral Kovalenko, just because it's gorgeous. It's a gorgeous shot, and she looks amazing, and it actually adds a little heft to the script because she talks about the cost of the war. But Mark and I were we had this one scene with Garth and Sonia and Garth's pilot, DeVille, and talking about this thing that Sonia does, which we're not going to tell you about. And it just wasn't gelling right. It was just missing something. And so I created like 2 lines for Sonia. So you have Garth and his pilot, and you had Sonia. So we added Sonia's pilot. And so you basically have Garth going, well, I wouldn't do that. And DeVille going, well, I wouldn't do that. And and Sonya's pilot going, yeah, we trained for that.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh yeah, that works. So, but that happened like 2 months ago, where we finished principal photography at the beginning of the year. So we're lucky that we can do that. This is where reshoots happen, right? For us, they're more like insert shots. But when you hear that Captain America Brave New World is still doing reshoots, it's because they're running into the same problems, and they're a $300 million film, and they're realizing, fudge, this isn't working, and the fans aren't responding to this when we need to change it. Well, let's go back and spend another $50 million changing it. Because
and they're doing focus groups, they're doing all kinds of stuff, right?
Yeah, right now it's just Mark and I, going, does this work?
Well, and Dana.
And Dana, absolutely, absolutely, Dana. So yeah, as Brian, I was going to say it before. Yeah, exactly.
I just can't hear it.
Yeah, more cowbell.
Classic.
Yeah, it's great. It's so funny. There was a video clip about Will Ferrell saying he years after that Saturday Night Live skit, he ran into Christopher Walken in a night. I guess Walken was performing or something. I forget. Anyway, maybe he was performing on Broadway, and he went back to meet him afterward. And Walken was like, you really kind of ruined my life. He's like, there ain't a place I go where I don't hear that line coming. Someone's like, hey, Walken, more cowbell, So good. Dana is amazing. I was there yesterday at his house, because he's like, hey, he's working on the backgrounds and needed to, and we had a little issue, and so
all resolved.
No, it does not. L. Scott Music. No, that's not this story. This story is this is a different story. This is a story of what made Garth great, not and what made not just Garth, because although it started off as he's the protagonist and he's the driving force in it, it's really about the war and what happened and all the people in the war. And so I mean it's not meant to be all about Garth, right? So there's really, and since Garth's accident happens after the war, years after the war, we don't touch on that.
Yeah, and for Sturm, they're like interlude. Definitely, you can see that moment where Garth is like, "Man, I'm losing all my friends just to get this guy out of here." There are some moments in episode 5 where there is that we do connect with Garth on that level of, was it all worth it to lose these people and in the battles in the 4 Years' War? So it's not that he doesn't have guilt. It's just his accident happens after these interviews that we have.
Yeah. And you can play that out and say when the accident happened and he went to Antos 4 and learned the cellular metamorphosis and how that drove him crazy. Well, it drove him crazy to become megalomaniacal, right? It drove him crazy to want to control the universe, right? He wanted to be the emperor of the galaxy or whatever. Why is that? And you can say, well, gosh, if you look back at his PTSD from the war, he lost so many people and he wants to be in control of it, does not want that to happen again. And that, so you see, as Storm says here, you see the things that could weigh on a person, right? At this point, that's what it is. It's weighing. And, we tried to touch on that even in Prelude, right? Even, in Prelude, when Christian and I were working on Prelude, on the character of Garth and doing rehearsals, a lot of it was a lot of the research was done on all those interviews you saw in Band of Brothers and in Saving Private Ryan, right? And how that generation dealt with the war, or didn't deal with it, or didn't talk about it, or what have you. And so that's a very, it all ties together there. I think Sturm and everyone who's mentioned it, L. Scott Music. And yeah, these are, we don't have to serve up the entire story for you. We're not, it's not a biography of Garth of Izar.
Yep.
We're showing you things. And I think we're doing the right job when, like Paul here, Sturm mentions when you watch Interlude, that you see some of that stuff, right? And listen, one of the nicest compliments I ever got was someone said to me, was complimenting me on my performance, which is always nice to hear. And they said, yeah, man, I just thought I was watching Dick Winters when I was watching you. And I was like, fucking yes, that's exactly what, that's who I was channeling. So that came through means I did something right. And you saw what I needed you to see, which is, ultimately, when you can get that performance without hearing something out of the actor's mouth, the actor's doing something right. And so
I think Axanar, if we're to say a point of view, the Prelude is, like you said, it's really Ramirez. That's kind of his point of view. But episode 4 and 5 really are Karn and Garth, and the relationship, ironically, that starts building with them. Ironically, but I mean, obviously, millions and bazillions of miles away, but that they're getting to know each other. In fact, there's a part in episode 5 where Soval talks about the nature of tactics and how Garth and Karn are at the apex predators of building tactics, knowing each other, finding out about who they are. And the denouement in episode 5, I think, is really resoundingly good feeling because of how this relationship completes. So I think you'll enjoy it.
Crystal's watching Ted Lasso for the first time, which, if anyone in the audience has not watched all 3 seasons of Ted Lasso at least once, please do yourself a favor. Spend the money on Apple Plus and watch it, because it is epic in so many ways. But there's one funny scene where in season 3 where they're going up against their old friend and trying to devise tactics. And the coaches are like, well, he expects us to do this, so we're not going to do this. We're going to do this. But he knows that we know that he knows that we're going to do this, so we're not going to do this. We're going to do it. But he knows that we know that, and it goes like that. And you're like, right, that's exactly
they talk about that thing in Billions, like in season 4 or 2, where he's trying to figure out what they're trying to figure, but he knows, and on the board, and let's see that.
Billions is great for that in so many ways. Yeah, in so many ways.
And that's Karn and Garth to the T.
Yeah, that's exactly it. They're both like, dealing with galactic consequences and trying to outwit the other. There's also the thing is, what the other guy's strengths are, so he's going to play to his strengths. And that, and he knows you're going to play the strength. That's it. And so each side is trying to get over, and it's not easy because that guy's just as smart as you, and he's thinking the same thing, right? That's what Mark just talked about, and that's kind of what's happening in episode 5.
And the quote, "No plan survives first contact with the enemy," is also in play. You got all these great plans. You're like, oh, the great Mike Tyson quote, until I hit you in the face.
Yeah. And this is, this is a good point, because, Prelude to Axanar has the germ of its idea is from that MASH episode, The Interview, which was the black and white episode done as a newsreel interviews with the MASH crew. Where you really start to see the truth of that show, the truth of what the characters are going through in that show. And certainly we know from the finale of MASH that, Hawkeye is damaged by the war. He's really damaged by the war. And so, yeah. So there you go. Yeah. So there you go, guys. We are at our our hour, so we don't want to drag this out forever since it's a Friday night, and all you good people have spent your last hour more or less with us. We want to thank you for that.
I'm going to go back to the episode 5 timeline and cut a narration, make a lot.
Oh yeah, and let me know when episode 4 is ready so I can watch it.
It's up. It's up by now. I'm sure.
It's ready. Ooh,
I'm sure it's up by now.
I'm going to watch it when we're done here. And for Paul and Scott, you guys have the link. It's the same link. It hasn't changed, so you should be able to go watch it. And Sterling, talk to your buddy Mark, and he'll give you the link. So he hasn't signed no NDA. I'm not giving that to anybody who's signed. Oh, Sterling, you hear that? Oh God! All right. Well, listen, everyone. We want to thank you so much for coming out and spending your Friday night with us. Thank you as always. It's always great to hang with y'all. If you have here's a couple of things. One, Axanar store. Go to axanar.com/store, or just go to the nav bar. It's all the way on the right. That is our full store with all the great Axanar swag is there, all the patches and pins and challenge coins and models and you name it. So please, if you haven't, go check it out and buy it. It all helps the endeavor. We appreciate it greatly. Check out our Patreon. This is all in the show notes there. We have a Patreon, and I just started a Substack, which Mark and I will need to cover in the next episode, because I am covering the origins of Axanar in 2010 from my very first trip to Star Trek New Voyages and kind of working my way up. Matter of fact, one of the next articles I write is going to be about Katoomba and how that Mark came to be doing Katoomba. So check out our Substack.
You know what the most important part about that was? You learned to edit.
Yes, I did. I did. So we're going to talk about all those things. So check out our Substack. If you're not familiar with Substack, it's where all the writers and journalists go and write on a daily basis, and you can subscribe to someone's Substack for free. It doesn't cost you anything. You can always donate if you want, but it's free. So go there and check it out. Because I'm going to be writing probably 3 to 4 times a week. I'm writing the continuing history of Axanar. So it's all written down at some point. Well, at some point we'll combine it into a book, but for now, it's going to be in our Substack. And that's it. All right, Mark, thank you, my friend. It's good seeing you as always.
You too.
I'm going to go watch episode 4 now and see how it looks.
You're going to like it.
Yeah, I'm sure I will. Everyone else, thank you so much. We will see you next time. Hopefully we'll be here next Friday. We'll keep you posted and let you know. But thank you so much. And I'm going to sign off here, and I'm going to be uploading another video tomorrow. So keep your eyes peeled.
He's got an editing platform, and he's not afraid to use it.
I am not.
All right, y'all. Bye for now.
Bye.